Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I return to Rokugan. I will be doing a 3-part series talking about 3 more important, notable locations within the Emerald Empire. This week, we're going a little bit south of Rokugan proper, past the Shadowlands into the former Ivory Kingdoms. This week, I talk about the second city, the capital of the Colonies. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about the place in the Emerald Empire that doesn't quite fit the Emerald Empire. During the Destroyer War, a Mantis expedition went to the south of the Empire, to the land called the Ivory Kingdoms. Now, when they got there, it looked like the entirety of the peoples of the Ivory Kingdom were slaughtered by the Rumalite cult. This is the cult that summoned the destroyers and all that. However, in actuality, it was only 90% of the population was killed. 10% had managed to hide in the jungles of the Ivory Kingdoms. But the big thing is the Mantis reported back that it was a land ripe for colonizing, for the Empire to expand into it and, well, keep anything from popping up from there again. And as a result of that, part of the end of the Destroyer War and the recognition of the Spider Clan was the Empress Uweko I giving the Spider the command to go forth and conquer in her name. That conquering was the Ivory Kingdoms. And the first city in the Ivory Kingdoms will be called the second city. The first city itself being the Imperial capital. And this basically ends up with the Empire recognizing that the Ivory Kingdoms, the Colonies, while directly under the Empress herself, needed to be governed locally. Sort of self-rule. And from there, you have the second city grow. It started with the Imperial District and the Military District. The two most important things in any Rokugani city. The place where the government resides, and around it, a defensive bulwark to keep everyone inside the Imperial District safe. Everyone outside the Imperial District is kind of considered expendable. And, of course, you have the other major city districts. Temple District, Artisan District, Merchants District, and Peasants District. And some interesting things happen. As I mentioned, 10% of the Invinda had survived. And they were put into a choice. They could oppose the Rokugani settlers. Few, if any, did. They could go hide in the jungles and, try to go on as normal. About half of the survivors did, but they don't have any warriors left. And so even a tiger attack can be a deadly threat to a village. And of course, they're hiding because you've got the spider doing their patrols, and spider will come into a village and, well, try to integrate the people into the empire. No, they'll probably kill them. And then you have what the other half did. Accept and welcome the Rokugani and try to integrate themselves in. The Rokugani, for the most part, treat these Invenda who have sworn their loyalty to the Emerald Empire as peasants, which offends the Rokugani peasants. And there have been outbreaks of violence between Rokugani peasants and Invenda peasants. But you still have to look at it like this. You have people who know the area. These people are going to be used by the Rokugani. These people are also going to be working the land, farming, doing manual labor, etc., because a growing city needs those sorts of things. And the second city is nothing if not a growing city. This has also led to some other elements. The Invenda have brought their knowledge, which also includes the knowledge of clothing appropriate for the climate. This has led the Rokugani to develop, with the knowledge provided by the Invenda, a style of dress that is a combination of the sort of what we would think of as India style dress and Japanese style dress. In fact, the governor of the second city pretty much went native. She views it as a practical choice, and it's considered a little bit scandalous as well, but, well, she's an Otomo. Scandal and manipulation are their thing. If people are gossiping about how the governor dresses, they're more likely to not be gossiping about her political decisions, like the fact that she created a Emerald Champion equivalent post called the Ivory Champion, which serves the same functions as the Emerald Champion, the chief enforcer of the Imperial and the governor's will in the former Ivory Kingdoms, in the Colonies. And, you need things like that. Now, when you start looking at the city, there's a couple notable things that stand out. First is that there are multiple barracks. The Crab, Spider, the Ivory Legion, the Governor's Legions, basically, all the clans have their own barracks. Though there is a small barracks called the Ivory Daggers, which is a joint barracks of Shosuro and Hiruma Samurai that specializes in long-range recon. They go out into the jungle, especially with the explorers units, trying to find threats before they become a threat to the city itself. Inside the Imperial District is a nondescript building simply called Blades. It has a Ronin who goes by the name of Knives, who lives there. He maintains the weapons stored there because this building was built as a contingency. It is a storehouse of weapons. In the event forces break through the walls of the military district and into the Imperial District. It has the usual assortment of Naginata, Yari, bows, and it also has an assortment of heavy weapons, Tetsubo, Daitsuchi, etc., etc. And the Ronin just set up shop there, built a small forge, and he maintains all the weapons there. He also makes a number of not poor quality, but not excellent quality. More average quality daishos. That's katana and wakizashi. And when Ronin come to have their weapons repaired, mended, etc., he will give them one of these daisho that he has made. Presumably they return those weapons back when they pick up their weapons. But that's just an assumption on my part. Thing is, this building, no one actually talks about it directly, because to admit its purpose would be to admit that the military district might fail. However, all new bushi, all new warrior samurai who arrive are quietly told by the guardsmen the location of the building, what it's for, and to only use it if absolutely necessary. Of course, there's the usual range of tea houses that have been set up, the farms and around the peasant district, that sort of thing. The city itself is predominantly self-sufficient. The only thing it really needs more of is people, because the land around the second city is dangerous. You have explorers going out and not coming back. You have military patrols where they get attacked by either surviving Romalites or by the creatures that roam the area around. And this leads to a slow trickle of losses. So there's a constant need for replenishment. On top of that, we are talking about a growing city. A city where those who are on the outs back home can come and attempt to find glory in a new land. And not necessarily those who are on the outs either. There can be those like the second or third son of a champion coming here because they're not going to get into any positions of power back home. But in the colonies, an entrepreneurial samurai can rise through the ranks. Because in the colonies, they kind of don't care about your history back home, about who you were, who your parents were, etc., etc. It's the closest to a pure meritocracy you will find in the Emerald Empire. And that is the second city in a nutshell. Next week, I will be talking about the greatest structure in Rokugan. The largest single structure, in fact. The Great Carpenter Wall. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.